Go. There you go. Work, work, work. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Eyes up. 1, 2, 3. Welcome to Practice Today, presented by SiriusXM. Ethan Greenberg and Eric Allen here in the BetMGM studio. We'll catch up with Olivia Landis and Brian Baldinger a little later in the show. The Jets are coming off 2 back-to-back games in which their offense was impressive, putting up over 25 points. They welcome in the Miami Dolphins in Week 12. But before we can get to Sunday, we got to get through tomorrow. Happy Thanksgiving, EA.
Happy Thanksgiving, Greens. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there. A lot to be thankful for. We're still working each and every day, but our location is going to move next week as far as Practice Today is concerned. Coronavirus protocols continue to be adjusted by the National Football League as the league works diligently to try to complete this season. And that means we won't be in the studio next week.
But we will still be covering practice as best we can. So Practice Today will be here, which leads us to today's headline. Who is going to play quarterback for the green and white? And you see right there, number 14 is practicing. Sam Darnold will be limited in today's practice. And it'll really come down to how his shoulder feels. But the one caveat to that is that it's not necessarily how he feels throwing the ball. Sam Darnold and Adam Gase, they're just one entity at this point. So Sam Darnold said that it'll really come down to how he feels like he can take a hit and be driven to the turf, which you can't simulate, unfortunately.
No, you can't. And he was asked about that today. It's just a feel, and everybody has to get together on that and be aligned. That means Sam Darnold, his representation, the Jets front office, Adam Gase, Joe Douglas, and everybody's got to be on board. If Sam Darnold doesn't feel right or the Jets don't think he looks right in practice, that man, number 5, will get his 5th start for the New York Jets. But Adam Gase did say that Darnold's going to be limited today, but he's going to do quite a bit. So the anticipation from this seat is Darnold's going to take most of the team reps, I would imagine.
I would imagine that as well. And the good news is if Sam Darnold can't play, Joe Flacco has played very well the past 2 games. He's thrown for 467 yards and 5 touchdowns. He has a 102 quarterback rating. He was only sacked twice, which is also an important number, showing that that offensive line is finally coming together. Connor McGovern said that the other week, that he feels good about where they're at. But for this Jets offense, EA, think obviously if you're a fan, you want to see Sam Darnold out there because this would be the first time that he'd play with a full set of healthy receivers.
Well, that's the big thing, and Gase said it this week. He'd love to see Sam Darnold out there with the full complement of weapons. We've talked the last couple weeks of finally seeing Denzel Mims, Rashad Perriman, and Jamison Crowder on the field together and what they can do. Mims has eclipsed 40 yards receiving in each of his games to date. He had a career-high 71 yards receiving last week. Rashad Perriman's got 3 touchdowns in his last 2 games. It's interesting when we analyze these 2 quarterbacks, you see Flacco having that rhythm and chemistry developed with Rashad Perriman, a former Raven, and the rookie Denzel Mims, whereas Sam Darnold early in the season relied a lot on Jamison Crowder. But again, he has not played with the Jets' top 3 receivers, and they're starting to really make inroads. 5 touchdown passes the last 2 games, 4 touchdown passes for the Jets over the first 8 games of this season.
You know, I think that it just boils down to this. If you're a Jets fan, you're excited to see what Sam Darnold can do with Rashad Perriman, Denzel Mims, Jamison Crowder. Chris Herndon took a step forward last week. We'll see what happens throughout the course of the week because a lot of this is going to be dependent on how Sam Darnold feels, not today, but tomorrow and Friday.
And the thing with Darnold is he is a guy who can make plays with his feet, where Flacco's going to live more so in the pocket. But when everything's working for Darnold, he's accurate in the pocket, but he's making plays outside of it as well.
There's no doubt about that. And whether it's Sam Darnold or Joe Flacco Sunday, we don't know the answer to that. But for the Dolphins, it'll definitely be rookie quarterback, the number 5 overall pick, Tua Tagovailoa, who will make his first start against the green and white at MetLife Stadium. And we know that a lot of eyes are going to be on Tua. But let's take a look at this Dolphins defense. Let's actually hear from Brian Baldinger for another Baldy's Breakdown presented by Sharp.
Thanks, Ethan. This week, I want to take a look at the Dolphins defense. I want to concentrate on the two corners, Xavier Howard and Byron Jones. They love to play press man coverage on the outside and try to take your wide receivers out of the game. The Jets offense are going to see a lot of press man coverage, like you do right here. At the bottom is Xavier Howard against Jerry Jeudy right there. Gets the ball out. I mean, right now he's playing as well as any corner in football. And on the other side, down here at the bottom, is Byron Jones. And when Tim Patrick runs this deep cross right here, you can see him. I mean, they're just man-to-man across the board right here. Drew Lock has a miscommunication with the receiver. Now, you can see up here at the top, Xavier Howard and Jerry Jeudy. I mean, stride for stride right here. All right, incomplete pass. That's what they're going to get a big majority of the time. I mean, here's very end of the game. Xavier Howard running with Tim Patrick. He got behind him on this on the final play of the game for 60 yards. But when they're not playing press coverage like that, you can get a lot of junk like this. I mean, this is the third play of the game. Nobody's lined up. Nobody's got their hand on the ground. Playing just a three-deep zone right here. And Xavier Howard is underneath, and he robs the middle of the field. That's his 6th interception. He's tied for the league lead right now. So just know, number 25 out there, he's a ball hawk. He's good at what he does. But expect a lot of press coverage this weekend.
The Jets are going to have their hands full with Xavier Howard on one side, Byron Jones. Baldy said it, Howard is tied for the NFL lead with 6 interceptions. But one way to avoid cornerbacks, you don't throw at him. Maybe the Jets will turn to Frank Gore, who scored his first touchdown as a member of the Green and White against the LA Chargers last week. For more on him, let's hear from Olivia Landis for our sideline report. All right, I guess we're dealing with some technical difficulties from Olivia Landis, but Frank Gore was impressive against the LA Chargers. I'm not going to steal her thunder, so if we get her back, that would be great. Yeah. We'll figure that out. But listen, the Jets right now placed LaMichael Pirine on injured reserve.
Yeah.
Yesterday, which means Josh Adams comes up. He was signed to the active roster, and Ty Johnson is also on this roster.
The aforementioned Gore, first touchdown with the Green and White comes against the Chargers. He also had a season high in terms of yards, and that was his 80th career rush touchdown. So that equaled Edgerrin James for 20th place all time in league history. That's really something else, but I'm glad you mentioned the other guys as we try to get Liv back here in a couple minutes. Ty Johnson is an explosive player, sub 4.4 speed, who started his career with the Detroit Lions. We saw him have a long carry a couple of games ago. It's a tough break for LaMichael Pirine. You're hoping he's back in the lineup against down the line here. And then also, you mentioned Josh Adams. Adams only has a few carries this season, but most notably a couple years ago when he started his career with the Eagles, he actually led that team in rushing. Different kind of back, more of a big back between the tackles, where Ty Johnson, he can scoop.
Ty Johnson had a 34-yard run, his first game with the Jets in South Florida against the Dolphins. Let's check in with Olivia now, who I believe is back with us. So, Liv, thank you. Let's hear about Frank Gore.
All right, guys, sorry. Quick little fix there. But as I was saying previously, through 10 contests this season, veteran running back Frank Gore has totaled 123 carries, 447 rushing yards, and 1 rushing touchdown. However, in his 16th season, it's not his stats that stand out, but it's his heart. Following the team's 10th straight loss to the Los Angeles Chargers last weekend, Gore spoke to the media and was very candid and open about what he thinks holds in his future. He said, quote, "I don't know if I'm going to play next year," end quote. He is 37 years old. The running back turns 38 in May in 2021. And he said, honestly, I just don't know if some teams are going to want a 38-year-old running back on the team. With that all being said, in his 16th season, he's accomplished a lot. He's the 3rd all-time leading rusher in NFL history. He's a 5-time Pro Bowler. He made the 2010 All-Decades team. So he's accomplished a lot in his career, which means if he's uncertain that this is going to be his last year playing, it means he's very hungry to get at least one win this season. He said it's been really difficult, 10 straight losses. However, he said that, no matter if we get a win or not, what he's shifting his focus to now is really being a leader for these younger players. He said that it is one of his main goals to teach these young players to be a pro. He said he wants them to know what it's like to be a pro day in and day out. He goes into practice each and every single game, working his butt off. And he said he wants to set an example. He said, I know that they're watching me, and I cannot sell them short. So with all that being said, Frank Gore is the absolute pro. He's accomplished so much in his 16-year career, and he's uncertain if he's going to be playing next year. However, what he's mainly focusing on right now, besides the entire team wanting to get that first win, is setting an example for the younger players.
Awesome, Liv. Appreciate it. We'll check in with you later in the show. Frank Gore really has set an example for the members on this team. LaMichael Pirine, I know he's one of the guys that Frank Gore's brought under his wing. So let's head to our injury report presented by Atlantic Health. We talked about Sam Darnold, Brashad Perriman. People may be like, uh-oh, what happened? Well, Brashad Perriman, same case last week. He was limited in practice all throughout the week with the shoulder injury. Blake Cashman, nice to see him back in the mix, at least on a limited basis. The one position that we should focus on is the tackles, because George Fant will not practice, the only player to not practice. And if he were to not play, you would imagine Chuma Edoga would start at right tackle. Well, Chuma Edoga is also limited with an ankle injury.
Yeah, and then they're backed up by Connor McDermott, who actually signed an extension, a reserve guy, a depth guy for the New York Jets. You're hoping at least Edoga can go, and he'd play right tackle. Greens, I thought Mekhi Becton had one of his best games against the Chargers, lining up a few times against Joey Bosa, and then Bosa flipped the sides, and then he saw a lot of Melvin Ingram. And Liv was talking about the run game, and we're watching the offensive linemen right now. I like the tone they set up front against the Chargers after the block punt from Henry Anderson. They ran repeatedly 3 or 4 runs to Frank Gore before LaMichael Pirine got into the end zone. So you want to win the line of scrimmage this week as we move ahead, because the Dolphins are just 27th in the National Football League against the run.
And one guy on that Dolphins front you got to watch out for is Emmanuel Ogbah. He leads the team with 8 sacks this season. That's the most in a single season for his career. So he's having a very good year in South Florida. And just real quick on another injury note, Sam Ficken went to IR yesterday, which means Sergio Castillo is going to be the guy for at least 3 more weeks. And one name that popped up on the injury report that's new is Chris Herndon with a back injury. And Adam Gase said that that's just more precautionary right now. And you want it to be, because you saw what he did last week against the Chargers. It was his best game of the season in terms of receiving, scored his first touchdown, and you'd like to think that he's now turned a page and he will continue to build on that performance for the rest of the year.
Yeah, after what we saw in training camp, we would have both been surprised if we were sitting here entering Week 11 and Chris Herndon had only 16 catches for 133 yards and 1 touchdown, and Ryan Griffin had only 7 grabs on the season for 55 yards. With that being said, there are 6 games remaining. Herndon flashed. He had that 26-yard reception early in that game against the Chargers, and then he did a really nice job in the red zone with his first scoring reception of the season. So what is next for Herndon? Can they build on that? Because what the Jets have been doing recently, which we talked about, is Mims is going, Brashad Perriman's going. Now let's see if they can incorporate Jamison Crowder, Chris Herndon and company, and start working the middle of the field, and then you got balance all over the place.
The other tight end move that the Jets made was Ross Travis. A couple days ago was restored to the practice squad. He was signed to the active roster yesterday, and Trayvon Wesco is on injured reserve. He's eligible to be designated to return to practice. That's kind of a mouthful right there next week with that ankle injury. And you'd like to see, that's Ross Travis right there,
Yep.
the former basketball player for Penn State. He's bounced around a couple different teams. The Jets are entering training camp. The Jets tight ends were one of the deepest positions, and I think to your point, kind of surprising that they haven't been more productive, at least in the passing game to this point. But there's still a lot of football left to be played.
And Dow Loggins did say last week that Herndon specifically has been asked to stay in line and help out with the blocking a lot, and the Jets are very happy what he's done there. And during an appearance on Inside the Jets this week, Herndon talked about, hey, I have to work to keep my confidence up. Yeah, I had to work to keep my confidence up. So I think you're going to see him take some steps here down the stretch.
And if you want a funny story about Chris Herndon and CVS on Thanksgiving, make sure to head to NewYorkJets.com, check out Inside the Jets. But now it's time to hear from Eric Coleman for his 3 keys to the game.
Hi, this is Eric Coleman with Sirius XM NFL Radio, here with my keys to success as the New York Jets face the Miami Dolphins. Now, offensively, it's always control the line of scrimmage. The Jets have to dictate the line of scrimmage, run the ball well, control the passing game. Whoever's playing quarterback, continue to be efficient with these receivers. All 3 receivers, Perriman, Crowder, and Mims are all healthy. Continue to spread the love amongst these receivers. They have shown they will create big plays for you. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, communication is key. On the back end, you have to have communication. Make sure everyone's on the same page so you don't give up any big plays. Last time the Jets faced the Dolphins, they gave up a few big plays. That can't happen if they want to win this week.
All right, thanks, EC. Let's head to our Stats Amazing segment. On September 21st, 1986, the Jets and Dolphins combined for 1,066 yards of offense, the most for both teams combined in any game in franchise history. The Jets gained 581 yards and won that game 51-45 in overtime. Wesley Walker played a big part in that. Now let's head to our NFL Network's analytics expert, Cynthia Freeland, for more of a look at Sunday's matchup.
Thanks, guys. 3 things that stand out to me this week really start with the defense. I'm really encouraged by Quinnen Williams, who had 2 quarterback hits and a half of a sack last week against the Chargers. Williams' pressure figures to play a key role against the Dolphins, who have a susceptible O-line. The next thing that pops out, 51.3. So the Dolphins defense is allowing more than 51 more yards per game over their past 4 games, that's since 2 has become the starter, than they did in weeks 1 through 7. They now allow 411.3. That ranks 30th, which is 3rd most in the NFL. This means opportunity for the Jets. The last number, it really relates to this opportunity, 1.12. So over the past 3 games, the Jets offense is averaging 1.12 more yards per play. It's now up to 5.39 from 4.27 before week 8. So that also, it corresponds to an improved ability to convert on 3rd down. We're now converting at 39.4%, up from 29.8 prior to that. That's an interesting figure because they're going to need to keep the ball in the possession of the Jets. For more stats and context just like that, join Dan Gross and I this weekend on the Numbers Game. I hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving. Back to you, Ethan and EA.
Awesome. Thanks, Cynthia. Ethan Greenberg, Eric Allen here in the BetMGM studio for practice today, presented by SiriusXM. And Cynthia said some things in there towards the end about the Jets receivers that we kind of already knew, but the numbers confirm it. The Jets have been stretching the field much more in the past 2 games than in the first half of the season. Brashad Perriman and Denzel Mims are averaging 21 yards per reception over the last 2 games.
It's not only the receptions, it's the pass interference and the holding penalties that they're drawing. We saw that against the Patriots where Brashad Perriman got down the field and he drew a flag, and you saw Mims, who has showed a lot of savvy here early in his career as far as the hand fighting and as trying to establish position. He drew a couple penalties against the Chargers, pass interference penalty and a holding penalty, so those guys can get down the field in a hurry. Different players, where Perriman is more your straight up burner, where I think we're seeing Mims show his ability to box out, almost play like a basketball player against some of these smaller cornerbacks. And you love what you've seen from him early in his career. He's averaging 16.7 yards a reception. I'll throw a stat at you. He's seen, among receivers in the National Football League who've been targeted at least 20 times, he's seen the 2nd amount of press coverage percentage-wise. And that's going to continue against the Dolphins. Remember, the first time these 2 teams met, the Jets did not have Denzel Mims, but Brashad Perriman, right there, number 19, they had a couple shots early in that game where a near miss between him and Joe Flacco. You hit that play, maybe things are a little bit different.
And, of course, Brian Flores, the head coach of the Dolphins, is of Patriots disciple, right? So Xavier Howard and Byron Jones, two very talented corners. The Jets will probably see a similar scheme to what they did in Week 9 against the Patriots when Brashad Perriman had 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. And the one number that was missing from that graphic wasn't just Denzel Mims got to score, right? Like, that was the one thing that was missing. When you see the graphic, Jameson scored over the past 2 games. Brashad Perriman scored 3 touchdowns over the past 2 games. Denzel Mims, we're still waiting on his.
It's coming.
All right.
Yeah, remember, the stat that we both looked at leading up to the draft was he was the only player in college football the previous 3 seasons to have at least 8 scoring receptions. It's coming.
In each of his 3 seasons at Baylor.
The previous 3. Yeah.
No doubt about it. All right, let's wrap things up on Practice Today, presented by SiriusXM, with the Hurry Up offense. So let's bring back Olivia Landis. Liv, we're going to start off with you. With Thanksgiving being tomorrow, if you could choose which player you'd like to host Thanksgiving and you would be a guest, who are you choosing and why? And start the clock.
Ooh, I'm a guest or they're my guest?
You are a guest.
I'm a guest.
We're all
okay,
coming to your house.
I'm going to say the big guy behind me, which is Mekhi Becton, and that's because, prior to the start of the season, we talked about how his mother is a chef. She owns a restaurant, cooks soul food. So I have a feeling that Thanksgiving would be pretty great at Mekhi Becton's house.
All right, EA, 35 seconds and counting.
I'm going with Joe Flacco. He was one of 6 growing up, so you got to take care of everybody in that family. He's got a number of kids himself, so there's going to be plenty of food there.
All right. I'm going to go with a big guy. I'm going with defensive lineman Henry Anderson. His mother is a pastry chef. EA and I agree on this. Turkey, an overrated bird. I'm going for the sides and I'm going for the desserts. And I'm sure that Henry Anderson's lovely mother would whip up something very tasty for after Thanksgiving meal. All right, that's all. Let's reset the clock. We did that before the buzzer hit. That was pretty good. So we're going to start with EA on this one. Then we'll hear from you, Liv. Which Jets player would take the family turkey bowl a little too seriously?
We just saw him, I think, out there on the practice field. That's Ashton Davis, because he knows only one speed, and that's 1,000,000 miles per hour. So I want number 32 on my team Thanksgiving Day.
Liv?
I'm going to go with linebacker Jordan Jenkins. For some reason, I just feel like he is the kid in the family that takes the family sports way too serious and gets mad about losing. So I think Jordan Jenkins is the one that would probably take the Turkey Bowl way too serious.
I like both of your answers. I'm going up front again. I'm going to go with Alex Lewis. He strikes me as one of those guys where, maybe his family member gives him a little shoulder bump, and then the next play, Alex Lewis is putting him in the dirt, and he needs a change of clothes. So Ashton Davis, Jordan Jenkins, and Alex Lewis, all very good answers. Let's reset the clock. We're doing great here, all right? We just hit 20 seconds, and now we're resetting it. Liv, we're going to start off with you. Just simply put, what is your favorite part of Thanksgiving?
I would say my favorite part of Thanksgiving is just being able to spend time with family. I think that's everybody's favorite part. I can't speak for everyone, but I just think being able to spend time with family is really, really important, especially living across the country from family. So won't be happening this year, but that's always a very special part to me.
What about you, EA?
Football, food, and family. Bottom line, Thanksgiving it's a football holiday where everybody gets together and we eat and we're able to watch some games. But those things, all 3 come together. And this year, a lot of us are going to be missing our family. So it's been a tough year, 2020, but hopefully we'll get back to normal in 2021.
I agree with what both of you said. Football, food, and family. Can't really find a better combination than those 3. That's all we have for the Hurry Up offense. Liv, thank you for bracing the cold yet again as Thanksgiving is around the corner. And that's all we have here on Practice Today, presented by SiriusXM. The Jets host the Dolphins. There's the buzzer. We beat the buzzer. That's big news.
That's a turkey buzzer, but not at my house, not at your house, because we don't. You can skip
because
the
we're
turkey.
going to Liv's house?
Yeah, we can go right to the pumpkin pie or sweet potato pie.
Okay, I knew you were going to bring that up. Not a fan of sweet potato pie. Anyway, that's all we have here on Practice Today, presented by SiriusXM. We'll see you Sunday, pregame Central, presented by Pepsi.